What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. Great to be back with you again today. Super excited because I've got not only one of the foremost experts in his field with me today, but also a very good friend of mine. I want to welcome to the program Grant Baldwin. Grant, what's going on, man?
Mr. Shane Sams, it is an honor and delight to be here with you, my friend. Thanks for letting me hang out with you.
You know, we don't do a lot of expert interviews here on the old Flipped Lifestyle Podcast, but I had to bring this guy on because one of the things we're diving into this year is audience building, traffic building. And I can think of nobody else besides the man, the public speaking legend.
Oh, pressure.
The guy that will help you get booked and paid to speak, Grant Baldwin, onto the show to talk about speaking and how we can incorporate that into our brands, into our funnels to get more members into our membership. So Grant, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your background.
Yeah. So nutshell is I run a company called the Speaker Lab where we teach people how to find and book paid speaking gigs. And so I'm sure for those that are listening and watching, there's some people who are listening, watching and going like, okay, I would love to speak a ton. I want to be a full-time speaker. I want to do 50, 60, 70, 100 gigs a year. And others are like, I don't want to do that, but I wouldn't mind doing, 2, 3, 4, 5 gigs a year. And I'm just having trouble figuring out how do you find and book those gigs. And so that's really where I was at when I got started. My background was I was really involved in my local church in high school. My youth pastor had a big impact on my life. I was like, I want to do that. Like, that seems like a cool gig. Be like a professional that hangs out with teenagers seems like awesome opportunity.
Be a guy that lets to wear shorts and flip-flops and tells jokes on stage.
Yeah, that's it. That's
what
something. I don't know that I ever wore shorts or flip-flops, but nonetheless, I had a buddy who used to say, like, we would do. He's like, you just do puppet shows. Like, I've never done a puppet show in my life, but that was in his mind what it was. And so basically, like, I eventually worked at a local church as a youth pastor, had a lot of opportunities to speak, enjoyed it, wanted to do more speaking, but just had no idea how do you begin? How do you get started? How do you find gigs? How much do you charge? Who hires speakers? Like, how does that world work? And so stalked a bunch of speakers, basically learned the ins and outs of the world. The speaking world, and eventually got to a point where I booked my very first gig, which I think is important to know. Like, everyone starts from 0 to 1, and then I eventually got to the point where I was doing 60 or 70 speaking gigs a year, all over primarily the U.S., and loved it. And had a lot of people who were asking me, "Hey, I want to be a speaker to some capacity or another, and I want to know how to do that." And so, again, that's the core of what we teach today: is we teach people how do you find and book paid speaking gigs.
Yeah, I love this topic. And one of the reasons I asked you to come on the show is because as we've been digging deeper into building a bigger audience and going out there, building bigger email lists, which of course leads to bigger membership sales.
Yep.
Speaking just kept coming up as one of the ways to kind of like grow an audience. We did one of our few speaking gigs. We do a couple of live events of our own, but we actually spoke at FlynnCon last year, Pat Flynn's event. And it was crazy. We don't get on stage much, but we got on stage. People heard us. They heard us talk. And when we walked off the stage, there was a line of people just waiting for us. And every one of them, we were having like a little Flip Lifestyle meetup. And we had like almost 50 people from the event show up at this little meetup who had never heard of us before we went on stage that day. And what's crazy is, man, a bunch of them signed up on our email list, and some of them became members, actually joined our community after the thing. And I thought, man, there might be something to this. So let's talk a little bit about audience. Why is speaking, public speaking, such a good thing for building like an audience fast? Like, why would these people be waiting for me off stage when they didn't know who I was 30 minutes ago?
Yeah, because there is nothing that replaces an in-person connection, right? So think about this in a couple different contexts. Let's take you and I, okay? You and I think, I don't remember who introduced us or how we got connected. I think maybe like we exchanged some Facebook messages, kind of knew of each other in the space. And that's kind of the extent of it. And so exchanged a couple messages. But when we met in person and have since hung out in person multiple times, it completely changes the dynamic of the relationship. And so you think about like the people that you're closest with, it's one thing to like, again, exchange some emails, whether that's a student or with a colleague or with a customer or with a mentor or whoever. But when you meet someone in person, it completely changes the dynamic of the relationship. And speaking is one of the few mediums that allows you to do that. So for example, right now at this very moment, there may be thousands of people who may be listening or watching this conversation, but we don't get to interact with any of them. We don't get to see them. We don't get to know what it's like whenever someone reads a blog post, whenever someone's driving in their car listening to something, we have no idea what the reaction is. Like whenever someone reads a book, the author never gets to watch them read the book. Versus when you're standing on stage and you're speaking to an audience, you get the real-time feedback of what's resonating, of what's working, of what's clicking, of the aha moments, of the light bulbs, of the eurekas, and those type of experiences that is really hard to duplicate in any other form or fashion. So being in person really, really changes things. And speaking is what allows you to do that. The other thing that you mentioned is that when you are in person with someone, then it builds like this human connection that again is hard to duplicate over, again, a podcast or a blog or a YouTube video or whatever it may be, because then afterwards I can come up, I can shake your hand, I can give you a hug, I can tell you a story, here's how that helped me, or here's how this resonated with me, and again, people will bond and connect that may become future customers, that may just have a deeper resonance with you because they had the opportunity to meet you. So speaking really allows that opportunity to build that human to human connection.
Yeah, when we walked off stage, and we've had our story is pretty intense, and we share it openly. And when we told some stories that we tell a lot on stage, and I remember this guy, his name was Sean, and he came up to me afterwards, and he was just in tears, bawling in tears, the kind of crying where you're like you can't catch your breath, And it was crazy. And I was like, hey, man, you okay? And he was like, yeah, man, it's just I have a son. And when you told me about what happened to your son at the daycare center and they were mistreating him, and he's like, it just really hit me. And I was thinking, man, I've probably told that story on 100 podcasts. I've probably told it on God knows how many webinars, And I bet people aren't in their car or sitting at home on a Saturday morning watching a webinar like that emotional, right? And this was me speaking to 500 people. Yeah. But he's sitting right there, and it is in the room. So it's almost like you can have this one-to-many conversation, but everyone in the room kind of feels like it's one-on-one. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, because people feel like, I know that there's a bunch of people in this room, but I felt like you were talking to me, right?
Yes.
And so it does feel like that. It does feel like that experience. That again, if you told that story on stage and you told that story on the podcast, it's the exact same story, but people receive it differently. Versus I'm in the room, I'm watching, I can see you, I'm paying attention, I'm locked in. Versus again, maybe I'm listening to this while I'm cooking dinner, or I'm exercising, or I'm driving the car, and it's just kind of like I'm connected to it, but it's not the same as I'm
it's
looking
background almost
in the eyes, of the person that's telling that story. It just completely changes the dynamic there.
So when you're on stage, so one of the biggest problems that everybody has, I don't care what kind of business you're in, I don't care if you're trying to launch courses or trying to launch memberships, is getting that audience, is getting what we would call traffic. But I don't really even like the word traffic. I almost would rather say attention. You're just trying to get attention. So this actually seems like a really good way to maybe be like, hey, I can look at a bunch of places where I could speak in my industry. And man, if I could get on stage, there's already 100 people there that might be interested in what I have. And if I do that 10 times, I've talked to 1,000 people, right? Yep. And if I can, what do you do during your speeches to get those people to follow you or listen to you or get even a lead, like an email or something like that?
Yeah. So a couple different things that you can do there. One is to make sure that if you're going to be speaking on a regular basis, that the talk is really, really dialed in and polished. So you think about the things that we recommend, that we refer other people to, the times that you and I have hung out. If you come to town and you're like, man, we're looking for a good place to eat, I'm going to send you to a place that this is the best place, not because the menu is beautiful or the font that they use or the decor. It's the food is really, really good. And so that's one of the best things that you can do. The restaurants that we go to on a regular basis isn't because they are always super strategic about, okay, what do we need to do to get them to come back and come back? And it's not like I have a membership punch card or something to get them to come, get me to come back on a regular basis. It's just the food's really good. So we like going there. So there's kind of that natural tendency of if you stand up on stage and deliver and connect with the audience, then the natural tendency for a lot of them is I like this. I want to know more about what it is that this person does, or follow what it is that they do, or learn more about how I might be able to work with them, or how I might be able to help them. So that would be the first part of it, is to make sure that what you're delivering, the product, the service that you're delivering is really, really good. The other side of it is then you can be very strategic about the lead, doing lead generation. So it could be in the form of collecting email addresses. You can do this in a couple different ways. I've seen people do this. Depending on the size of the group, I was in a session years ago, and one of the guys said, hey, if you just want a link to my slides, just pass forward your business card. And it was in a setting where everyone more or less had a business card. So it's like everyone passed forward the business card, and he had a stack of business cards that he was going to follow up with, right? So something like that. I remember seeing someone like in a small setting where there wasn't a ton of people, and they just passed around a clipboard, just like put your email in. So you can do something. Sometimes I feel like, well, I don't have my this text opt-in or this SMS type of thing or this big funnel. It's like sometimes it's just passing around a piece of paper on a clipboard and getting people to write down their email address. Like that still works. So you could do something like that, or you could again do more the tech route of getting people to opt in through going to a specific URL that's up on the screen, or texting to opt in, like an SMS thing. There's a couple different tools. So it's that type of tool where it's like text the word membership to 1 2 3 4 5, and it starts some type of sequence there. So you can do something like that. But you should absolutely look at every speaking opportunity as a chance to build that audience, because you're building that in-person human connection, that's going to be completely different than through a podcast or through any other medium. So speaking to the right audience of 100 people may be way more worthwhile and beneficial and valuable than having 1,000 people listen to the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Because of that in-person connection. And we can also dig into speaking can work really well from like a financial standpoint as lead gen. Even if you don't get a check from the event planner or the event organizer, there's a lot of ways to generate revenue from towards your membership or towards coaching or consulting, whatever it is that you may be doing, that generates significant revenue beyond just whether or not you got a check. So we can dig into that too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like I saw before. I want to jump into that. That was actually my next question. You're reading my mind.
I'm trying. Yeah. I'm here for you.
I saw a guy one time. He did a card trick on stage that had nothing to do with his speech. Yeah. Right. So he gets up there and he's got the camera and he's doing the magic trick. Right. And everybody goes, when the Ace of Hearts comes out or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Right. But listen, what he did though. So we're in a room. There's probably 300 people in this room now. This was not a small task. So he's like, I'm doing this. And everybody goes, And right when they did that, and he goes, hey, could everyone look under your seat? And everybody, like I say, it was an Ace of Hearts. Everybody had an Ace of Hearts on it with a free opt-in. I was like, dude, what time did you come in here this morning? That was ninja. Like I bet 100 people probably like logged in at that moment. You know what I'm saying? And did that. So let's talk about that monetizing it, because that's really what we talk about, and like especially let's say I get a speaking opportunity, right? Because not everybody's getting paid, right? Some of the people at events are not getting paid, but I know I'm going to be on a stage, and like last week, I was at Funnel Hacking Live. There were 4,500 people in the room, and I talked to. I got a VIP pass, so I was back in like the VIP speaker area, and I talked to a guy that right before he went out on the stage, and he was like, yeah, man, like I know I'm giving a talk and I know it's awesome. I don't really have anything related to it financially, but I put together a page with an opt-in and I'm going to throw it up. Yeah. Because you had 4,500 people in the room that were going to listen to him. Let's say 500 of them sign up on the list and then 200 of them buy something, right? Like that's, I don't care if they paid him or not. Like that, if you got 200 people paying you $100 a month, that's a lot of money, you know? Yep. So like, let's talk about that. Like, how do you make money like after you go on stage? Like beyond, how do we actually use this like to turn those leads into income?
Yeah. So one of the things that you want to make sure that you do is you recognize that as a speaker, you are delivering something of value. And so you have to receive something of value in exchange for that, right? Now, oftentimes we view speaking as either, you got a check or you didn't get a check. And that's the primary means of value that we're trying to receive. But again, the point being, there's a lot of ways to receive value beyond whether or not you got a check. So let me give you some examples. Let's say that you offer some type of product or service or coaching or consulting or membership or something to where, let's say you go speak, you don't get a check from the event planner, from the event host or event organizer, but because of the audience that you spoke to, that several people signed up for your membership, or several people hired you for coaching, or several people bought your book, or whatever the thing may be, and you can point to a significant amount of revenue from that one event, you received a lot of value. It just didn't come in the form of a check from that event planner. It came in the form of a check, but just in a different means. So I can think of several events that I have done for free with the strategic purpose of, I know that I'm going to generate revenue in other ways. So for example, I remember a couple of years ago, I went to speak at a conference, and they did not pay me to speak at this event. I had to pay travel out of pocket for it. So I show up to the event and have already lost money. Hypothetically, just by being there, I've lost money, right?
You spent money to be there.
Absolutely.
But,
yeah. Yep. And so I just do a small workshop. It's a big conference, but I do a small workshop there. The workshop goes really well. I have multiple people who sign up for our course, people who hire me for coaching. The workshop went really, really well. The event planner got wind of that and said, hey, we heard you crushed it. We want to have you come back next year to do the keynote where you will be paid for that, right? Wow. So I can look at this one free session and I can point to tens of thousands of dollars in revenue that came in various forms and various streams that made all of a sudden this event that seemed like a loss on paper all of a sudden became very, very profitable. So again, the point being that speaking can generate revenue in a lot of different ways. Other reasons where it may make sense to speak for free. Our mutual friend, Brian, spoke at something about a year ago or something. He doesn't do a ton of speaking, but he was invited to speak at something over in Europe, and they had a lower budget than what he was shooting for. But basically they said, hey, tell you what, we'll fly your wife over as well. We're going to give you some additional nights of hotel. And so basically he was able to say, okay, the thing of value I'm receiving is a European vacation for my wife and I. Like that's right. That is something that's worth something, right? My wife always half joking, half serious says like, Grant will go speak for free in Hawaii if the family gets to come along for it, right? Because you're getting something of value there that may make sense. Other reasons that may make sense to speak for free or for a lower rate is just from the credibility. You just mentioned that you were at a big conference. There's thousands of people there, and so everybody on stage there who's speaking at that has a certain amount of recognition, of credibility, of guilty by association in a good way. And so there's kind of this prestige about being a speaker. Like, ooh, you're up on stage, you're a big deal, right? So there's this certain amount of credibility and authority that just comes with being a speaker that again can translate to revenue in other ways. Wow, if such and such had this person on stage at their event, they must be a big deal. I should pay attention to them, right? Yeah. It's kind of like I was talking with someone the other day about PR and what's the value of PR. It seems like doing interviews it can be like if you're doing like something on the Today Show. It seems like what's the point of that? Does anybody really watch it? Is it really going to move the needle? And what his point was like, it's less about what it does in the moment and more about the residual value that you get from that. Yeah. Because someone who may not know you but may know what the Today Show is, someone that may not know you personally as a speaker but may know what that conference is, and so they know like if the event organizer trusts you to be on their stage, then that's a big deal. And so there's that like borrowed credibility and that borrowed respect and authority that comes with being a speaker. So all that say, like there's a lot of different ways that you can generate value financially and otherwise from speaking.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, and this what you said there about the event organizer trusted you. Yeah, man, they trusted them to show up. Yeah. They trusted them to not be hammered on stage. They trusted them to fight through a little cold, but the show must go on. There's a lot of huge trust. Like, like if you get featured in a magazine, those are all good. If you get featured on a podcast, whatever, but it is like next level trust. Like, it's like you're vetted. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to research you. I don't have to go back into your detail. I just know, well, I like that guy and he put this event on and he put that person on stage. So, wow, that person has to be trustworthy. Yep. And you already overcome that like huge obstacle. And I was thinking about added value of things you do for free. So like probably back in 2015, we did an interview in Forbes, right? Now, at the time, I wasn't paid to do that interview. Yep. I got nothing for it. In fact, I was on vacation in Disney World and we got up that morning and we did it from the condo. Before we went out. So we took off 2 hours of our vacation or whatever, So we actually were like sinking costs. Like, I got tickets. I got to get to Disney and burn it up until the parade goes, man. You know what I'm saying? Right. Got to get my money's worth. But it's funny because like I just had someone the other day and was telling me that's where they heard about us was in Forbes. That guy ends up being a member for like 3 or 4 years. He comes to both of our live events. He came on our podcast and shared his story to inspire the rest of our community. And it all came because we did something for free at an inconvenient time.
Yeah.
3-4 years ago, right? And I met a guy at FlynnCon. A guy was he was in San Diego. We did the event. We announced we were doing the event. He wasn't coming to the event, but he just heard we were there.
Yeah.
And then we did the meetup. He comes. It's one of the craziest success stories in the Flip Your Life community. He makes a living on a membership teaching people how to raise chickens, right? And like he comes on, but one of our most popular episodes.
Yeah.
Does these interviews and just builds, the credibility of our community more, all because, and we did FlynnCon as a favor for Pat.
Yep.
Like I paid, like same thing. Hey Pat, you're having an event. We'll come. We bought our tickets. We bought our thing. We did it for free, but man, I made way more money off sales
right
after that event than I ever could have before. So man, this is great stuff. I'm starting to think I need to go speak.
You got to do some more speaking, man. I've been telling you this for a long time.
I talk a lot. I should get paid for it more. Okay. Hey, let me ask you one more question. So, of course, Grant and I know each other a little bit, and we've kind of talked shop and shared some things. And you do a lot of course sales and things like that. We do the membership model where people are coming in on a monthly subscription. But we were sitting around one day talking, and we realized there was actually some similarities in how we are creating stable, predictable revenue floors, is what I call them.
Yeah. In
our business. So one of my goals is always to raise our floor. Like I want to know that the worst case scenario in a month is, $30,000 or whatever. Like I want to know I got this many people paying me this many dollars a month. And, I want my floor to be higher than other people's ceilings. Now with course sales, when we sold individual things, I always found there was kind of a little bit of feast or famine, but you've kind of figured out a way around this using payment plans, correct?
Yep.
So how does that work?
Yeah. So we have a couple different programs that we offer. We have basically a $1,000 course, and then we have that's sold via automated and live webinars. And then we also have a high ticket program that's basically more of a done with you kind of a group and one-on-one coaching program. That's a $5,000 program, but both have payment plan options. And so what ends up happening is we have a lot of people who can't afford the single payment, which is understandable. And so by having these payment plans, they start to stack and they start to pile up, really. And so, for example, on the $1,000 course, we have a 6 pay and a 12 pay option, and then on the high ticket program, we have a 2 pay, a 3 pay, and a 6 pay option. And so initially, you're kind of like, well, I would still rather have a full pay versus a payment plan. Sure. But I also recognize, each payment plan that comes in, I'm not just getting that one payment, but we're getting ideally the subsequent payments for the next several months. Awesome, that's cool. We're going to. So, for example, our 2 pay for the $5,000 program, we just split it evenly. It's $2,500. So we had a couple of those that came in yesterday at the time of this recording. So we have, I think we had 3 that came in yesterday. So that's $7,500 that comes in yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. But that also means there's $7,500 that's going to come in next month, right? Amazing. And so it starts to accumulate over time and starts to pile up. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons with it, right? The downside is with a payment plan, like let's take this 2 pay option. They pay this month, they pay next month. They have fulfilled their obligation. Right. They are done, right? So there's not like this recurring where they're going to be with us for the next 20 months, right? Now, at the same time, that's going to be a higher ticket there. So maybe 2 months and done, maybe the equivalent of value of, having 50 months at $100 a month.
Right, exactly.
So pros and cons there. The other side of it is we, like any membership model, is we do still have a lot of failed payments. A lot of people that will go delinquent and they just stop paying, even though they committed. Yep, I'm going to do this. So it's not a membership in the sense of like you can't like just come and go. Like I can't unsubscribe from Netflix and then resubscribe next month. It's like no. It's like you bought a car and you're committing like no. I'm paying for the car on a monthly basis. We're giving you the car, but we're trusting you that you're going to keep making these agreed upon payments to us. So there's people who like, a couple months in, I'm just going to stop making payments and flake out. So that that's part of it. But the bottom line is that you're exactly right, that this floor is that on a monthly basis, on a recurring basis, we use Samcart as our payment processor or as our checkout system. And so we can see a daily report of what each month's recurring amount is for that given period, for that 30-day period. So it's really encouraging to see, like, okay, if we don't do anything for the next couple months,
right.
this is still coming in, which again is part of the value of the membership model. Is I know that, all right, every next month there's still more coming in. Next month there's more coming in. Next month there's more coming in, and it's the same type of thing of with the payment plans. If you structure it the right way, that again over time that builds up and accumulates to the point where each month you do have that base that keeps coming in. Now, again, it kind of ebbs and flows, and same with like membership. You add people, you lose people, you have attrition and that sort of thing. And so we have months where it's higher or lower than others. But as a general rule, I can look at the chart and see like it's for the most part up and to the right at a
slight slope.
It's not a big hockey stick, but just gradual up and to the right of the amount of recurring that we're getting on a monthly basis continues to grow, right? So it can absolutely work in that way from continuing to build a financial base into the business.
Yeah, I love I love this concept because the biggest similarity I see, it's kind of in reverse. Like you can see like on average when those payments screw up. Like if you take every payment plan, you can be like, well, this is supposed to be 10 months, but let's be realistic. It ends up being about 7 on that, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like you can figure the number out. And it's like the membership model is the same thing. Like, well, the normal person stays 11 months.
Yes.
So we can kind of say that every sale is worth this,
Yep.
But it takes a huge amount of like if you're just total sales every day, you got to go out of the cave and kill it.
Yep.
Like that can be very stressful. And it removes some of that stress because, like you said, like one, if we don't do anything else, we've got this. But if something goes wrong, well, it's okay. We got a couple months to fix it instead of a couple weeks.
Yep.
Because you do have that recurring revenue. And like, I love the big ticket stuff you said too, because like, it's kind of like when we get an annual sale, like one of the things that we're doing is trying to spend that on ads and that gets more members, right? So when you get the big hit, you can go out and invest and that keeps the floor raising and it keeps the, I want to be the guy that's going all the way to the top of the pyramid really, really late, not the guy that fell off halfway up.
Right. Yeah.
I think payment plans can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It very much works that way. And so you're exactly right that that we recognize if someone commits to a 12-month payment plan, that a majority of them are going to drop off. And so one of the things that we do is with the our 6-pay, our 12-pay, and then on the high ticket, the 3-pay and the 6-pay, there's a lot of quote unquote built-in interest there. Well, we assume like a decent percentage of them are going to drop off at some point, right? And we certainly have a lot of people who say, I'm going to pay 6 months, and they pay 6 months and they don't miss a beat. And that's not uncommon either. Right. So, but we also have to plan for if you go buy a car and you're not going to pay for the full thing and you say, hey, I want to break this up over, 24, 36, 48 months or whatever it may be, that they're going to allow you to do that, but they have to mitigate their own risk in doing so with higher payments or with risk or whatever, or with interest or whatever it may be. And so we're kind of doing the same thing. We assume that you may not make all the payments, so we want to collect as much as possible up front. The other side of it is that it also, by having payment plans that are higher than the cumulative total of what so for example, like our 6-pay for our high ticket program, you would end up paying about 20% more versus if you just paid it in full, right?
So it's basically you're financing the risk.
Yeah, totally. And so part of what we're also saying to them is like, yeah, you can run the numbers. Like this adds up to more than if you just pay it in full. So it also makes the pay in full option look better. I flat out save more if I do it this way. So there's that side of it as well that helps with sales.
Cool. I love that because that's what we're all about is stability in our income, recurring revenue, being able to predict ahead. When you got kids, you can't afford to have a bad month. You know what I'm saying? When you're paying your own health insurance, you gotta have the money. And I love talking to you about LTV and subscriptions and memberships, and it's just great stuff. But I'll tell you what I'm most excited about, guys.
Oh boy.
Okay, because I remember. So Grant and I, with some other guys, go on this little trip every year. And one night I remember specifically, we were sitting on the back of this houseboat out in the middle of the woods, no lights, and we were kind of going around the table, and it was like, "What are you excited about?" And Grant was like, "Yeah, buddy of mine reached out to me and has this idea for like a book about speaking, and like, I think I'm going to do it. I want to write a book, and it sounds fun." And it looks like it's going to work out. And what I'm super pumped about is your book is coming out today. Like that book is really happening today, February 18th. If you're listening later, you're still going to hear about the book. But like, tell everybody about this book that you got coming out, man, and how exciting it is and what's inside.
Yeah. For those that are watching on YouTube, the book is The Successful Speaker, 5 Steps for Booking Gigs, Getting Paid, Building Your Platform. And so, yeah, I still remember that conversation of just like, hey, we got this idea, we got this concept. Now, a couple years later, here it is. So, yeah, for those who are interested in speaking in whatever capacity, whether you want to speak full time, you want to do what I did where I was doing 60, 70 gigs a year, or you're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I got a membership, I got other things going, but I would love to do 5 things. I've done a few gigs here and there. This is what typically happens with a lot of entrepreneurs is you've done a few things here or there. Maybe you did a favor for a friend, or you randomly, something just kind of fell in your lap and you're like, that's awesome. I want to do more of it. I don't know what to do from here. And just sitting and waiting and hoping things just magically fall in your lap. Like, hope is not a strategy. That doesn't work. So you got to be intentional. And so we want to, in the book, we want to walk you through them. Exactly what you need to do, whether you want to do a ton of speaking or a little bit of speaking, of how you can incorporate speaking into your business in whatever capacity. So again, the book is The Successful Speaker, 5 Steps for Booking Gigs, Getting Paid, Building Your Platform. All the information is over at thespeakerlab.com/book, thespeakerlab.com/book. We have several pre-order bonuses for those who are listening live whenever this comes out. They're going to have some pre-order bonuses for a couple days there, so don't miss out on that. The Successful Speaker, that's the book that you need for your speaking business.
And I always say this. I'm not an affiliate. I'm not getting anything off of this. I'm just excited about this freaking book, man, because I've literally lived it, watching you write it and do it and read it and book covers and also too, like, you know, a couple of the things that I've been doing lately. I know that we have got to be speaking 5, 6, 7 times a year because I know it could help us get our brand out there, get our name out there, but also like push our mission forward. Like Joss and I are really, really, really passionate about helping people flip their lives. And I almost feel like that's like one of the most effective ways that we could do that. And we're not doing it. And if we're choosing not to do it, we need to make another choice because we're not helping as many people as we could. So I cannot wait to read that book.
I'll piggyback on one other thing there. I think that this is, we touched on this earlier about some different ways that you can receive value as a speaker. I think one thing that's really relevant, especially for this audience, one thing you and I geek out about is travel. We both love travel. We love experiences. We love creating those memories with our family. And speaking is one of those things that allows you to travel, allows you to have a lot of these experiences and opportunities. So I can think of like cool places that I've been invited to speak at or I've gone to speak at, and I've been able to take my family. Like we were talking about earlier with our mutual friend, Brian, who was able to turn it into a vacation. I remember a few years ago, I was invited to speak at an event that happened to be hosted at the one of those Great Wolf Lodges, one of the big indoor water parks. And so I said, "Hey, can my wife and girls come along with me?" And they're like, "Sure." So Daddy's got to work, but like they had a free vacation that we spent a couple days at the water park. You know, or times where we've had speaking gigs in Orlando, or you know, if I'm speaking in North Dakota in December, I'm typically on my own. But other times are like, "Yeah, I want to go along. I want to go to that cool city, or I want to experience that." Just a couple months ago, we went to DC and I had to speak at something, but then we spent the rest of the time like touring DC, right? So all these, like, again, you and I, we love travel, we love experiences, we love not only for ourselves, but to give our kids, our families these opportunities. And speaking really opens up a lot of doors to be able to travel and use it as a business expense as well.
And one reason we even said, "Hey, Pat, we'll come speak at your event," is because we love San Diego, and the grandparents said they'd babysit. So Mom and Daddy got a free trip, we got a trip to San Diego out of the deal. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And we always need more business trips with our spouses.
This is true.
Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on today, sharing with your audience. I cannot wait to read the book. I cannot wait to have it in my hands, and my highlighter, and my pen, and my coffee, and tearing it up. And who knows, I might be speaking sometime later this year after I read this book. Grants will get me fired up. And I know the book's going to fire you guys up as well. So if you've ever thought about speaking, check that out. Make sure you head over to speakerlab.com/book. And Grant, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Shane, I love you, man. Appreciate the feedback and support.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to today's interview with Grant Baldwin. Man, a lot of amazing tactics and strategies to grow your audience so that you can go and build your paid membership community. Everybody needs to listen to what he said today and go out and do that. We would love to help you with other strategies. Maybe it's growing your audience. Maybe it's building your email list. Maybe it's getting more members. All you need is 50 people to pay $100 a month, or 100 people to pay you $50 a month to make $60,000 a year and make a living online. That's what we do in the Flip Your Life community. We help people just like you find and use their God-given talents to build and grow online communities, take control of their lives, become and stay self-employed. You can learn more about the Flip Your Life community over at flippedlifestyle.com. Make sure if you're watching this somewhere that you like or subscribe or follow this page, and make sure you're listening to the Flipped Lifestyle podcast every single week. You can find us anywhere on social media at Flipped LS, or just type in Flipped Lifestyle and connect with us on your social media network of choice. Until next time, guys, get out there, take action, and do whatever it takes to flip your life. We'll see you then.